One of the things that I've found necessary to do is to actually explain the office of the Attorney General of the state of Illinois. Many people do not actually understand what that office is supposed to do, and there's reasons for that. When you hear the term Attorney General, most people think of the Attorney General they hear most often, and that's the United States Attorney General. But the United States Attorney General is actually appointed by and serves at the pleasure of the President of the United States. And so consequently, he does, basically, although he pretends that he doesn't, but he basically does what the President says, because the President can fire him. Okay, this is as a practical matter. So even though the Attorney General of the state of Illinois has the same title, Attorney General, the jobs are not anywhere near alike, because the Attorney General is elected by the people of the state of Illinois, not appointed by the governor, not by the government, not by the Department of Public Aid, not by the Department of Public Education, not by the Board of Education, not by the Board of Elections, but the people of the state of Illinois. And that makes all the difference in the world of how this job is supposed to be executed. It has not been executed that way. I'll give you one particular example. I am the attorney for an organization called the Illinois Conservative Union, which many of you may have heard of. Carol Davis is the leader of the Illinois Conservative Union and has been traveling around the state doing a lot of training on election matters. About 3 years ago, Carol and three of her board members went down to the Board of Elections in Springfield and asked them for the voter data to see basically whether or not the board was doing their job in terms of keeping the voter rolls clean. There's something called the National Voter Registration Act that entitles them to do that. Okay, thank you very much. That entitles them to have this data. But despite the fact that the National Voter Registration Act says that they can have the data, the Board of Elections basically told them, no, you can't have it. Carol and her three grandmother friends took me to lunch and explained what happened. And not terribly long after that, I filed a lawsuit. I filed a lawsuit against the Board of Elections, and basically we wound up with a stack of legal papers about knee-high that says, follow the law. Give us the data that we're entitled to under the National Voter Registration Act, Section 8. And basically they've got a stack of legal papers on the other side that says, we don't have to. They filed a motion to dismiss, we beat that. They filed another motion to dismiss, we beat that. And then they started filing all these crazy things called interrogatories. And among the interrogatories, among the silliness was, do Carol Davis and her three grandmother friends that live in Wheaton and Lockport, do they have any felony criminal records? What's their felony criminal history? What's been their job? What's their job history in the last 10 years? None of that has anything to do with whether or not they're entitled to this data. But it has everything to do with keeping the data out of the hands of the citizens. And guess who the lawyer for the Board of Elections is? The Illinois Attorney General. So the Illinois Attorney General is basically telling the citizens of the state of Illinois that their government does not have to follow the law. So basically the Illinois Attorney General is telling the citizens of the state of Illinois that their government doesn't have to follow the law. This is not the only place this is happening. There was 4 or 5 churches that were where they tried to declare the churches non-essential. Took them all the way to the United States Supreme Court. When it looked like they were going to lose, they quit. There's a situation where college and professional athletes are being treated differently than high school athletes. And again, this is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. The list goes on and on and on. To the best of the estimate I can make, there's about 40 or 50 lawyers in the 450 lawyer group of the Illinois Attorney General's office that are litigating against the rights of the people of the state of Illinois. Wow. My first day in office, we're going to bring all those cases in, and we're going to resolve all those cases. We're going to see what the citizens' problems are. We're going to take care of them through negotiation, and then we're going to have 40 or 50 lawyers that are doing what? Nothing. Yeah, they won't have anything to do, and guess what I'm going to do with them?
Fire them.
No, I'm not going to fire them.
Definitely fire them.
Yeah, well, except for one thing. Except for one thing. There's a situation, I mentioned the Illinois Attorney General Act. There is the first duty says represent the people. Among the top 5 duties is to prosecute other crimes. And what we're going to do is we're going to take those 40 or 50 lawyers and we're going to turn them loose on people like Kim Fox. I think another gentleman I'd probably go around here would be Eric Reinhardt, who has a record similar to Ms. Fox's, but he doesn't get quite the press because, of course, he's not in the media center that Kim Fox is in. But we have all these prosecutors that are not prosecuting crimes, and the first thing that we're going to do is quit litigating against the people, and then we're going to start prosecuting criminals. Okay. The Attorney General's office, I've got a fellow that actually has endorsed the campaign. He's the chief of police down in Robbins, and the Robbins chief of police, Dave Shepard, has mentioned to me that they actually sent a request to the Attorney General's office to prosecute cases of people that they arrested, that the Kim Fox refused to, and he got a refusal from the Attorney General's office saying they didn't have the authority. Next time, if that ever comes up, I will tell you that there's something, again, in the Attorney General's Act that says the Attorney General has the authority to be involved in any case in which the people of the state of Illinois have an interest. They have an interest. Every criminal case starts out as the people of the state of Illinois versus the defendant, which means that Attorney General's office has an interest in every single criminal case in the state of Illinois. And we will, in fact, take those cases that are the most dangerous, most important, and we will prosecute them. You see that our slogan for the campaign is "Make Crime Illegal Again." Well, this is how we're going to do it. Okay, it's not just a slogan. There's actually a plan. We're going to quit litigating against people. We're going to put away the criminals, and then in those circumstances, we're hopefully going to embarrass the Eric Reinhardts and the Kim Foxes enough by getting convictions on people they turn loose, so that perhaps they'll start doing their jobs. And now that's the background. As for me personally, I am a former state's attorney. I'm a former Cook County state's attorney. Back in the old days when we actually prosecuted criminals. Yeah. So we're going to do that again. I did more than 400 felony cases that I was involved in as what they call felony review. We had investigations. I actually did things like read people their rights. You have the right to remain silent, all those kinds of good things. And then I did more than 10,000 misdemeanors. The next time either of the fellows that are running against me for the nomination do a criminal prosecution, we'll be there first. Okay? This is not a place for on-the-job training. This is a place where somebody who knows how to prosecute crimes should in fact be in charge, because then I will be able to monitor and see to it that the folks that are below me are in fact doing their jobs properly. And if they're not doing their jobs properly, we'll find an appropriate attorney that will. But I will also tell you that among the top 5 duties listed in the Attorney General Act is to prosecute election crimes. Now I touched on it a little bit in the other video, but I actually in 2016 I was part of the Trump-Rubio legal team in 2016 down in Florida, and it's a long story. If you want to Google Shestokas in the Miami Herald, you will find part of the story about how I discovered the 150,000 illegally open ballots in Broward County, Florida. We made some changes about that. The newspapers don't tell you the whole story, the whole backstory, of course, and maybe someday we'll do something about that. But also in 2020, I was part of a group of folks called Lawyers for Trump. In Pennsylvania, and I worked in Pennsylvania for 5 weeks, beginning before the election started and until the day before Thanksgiving. And the day before Thanksgiving, I testified in Gettysburg before the Senate, Pennsylvania Senate, on things that went wrong in.
Since practiced law in Illinois and Florida. Some time ago, I was a Cook County Assistant State's Attorney Prosecutor, and during that time, I actually did election law enforcement during the course of that time, including seeing to it that people had appropriate access, precinct openings and closings, that machines were zeroed out. Since that time, I've either been a candidate or a campaign in over 10 other individual elections, and in 2016, I actually worked as a volunteer for the Trump-Rubio campaign in Broward County, Florida. Discovered them opening mail-in ballots in a locked room. Had a Broward County judge monitoring everybody's access. He was actually on site monitoring everybody's access to see to it that could happen, see to it that everybody would have appropriate access. Currently, I am lead counsel in conjunction with Judicial Watch in a suit called Illinois Conservative Union versus the Illinois State Board of Elections for violations of the board in terms of the National Voter Registration Act.
In Allegheny, primarily in Allegheny County and in Montgomery County, shortly after the election, I had the distinct pleasure and honor to do something special. I'm not licensed to practice law in Pennsylvania. Okay, I'm licensed in Illinois, Florida, several federal courts, and so. But there were issues involving post-election matters before several electoral boards. And there was a quirk in Florida law, or excuse me, Pennsylvania law, that said, you can appear before an electoral board as the personal representative of a candidate, and so you don't have to be a lawyer to do that. So calls went back and forth on a couple of levels, and when they convened the electoral board in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, I was able to stand up. The people were introducing themselves. This is so and so. I'm a lawyer on behalf of blah blah blah. And they got to me. One guy says, "Hey, he's not licensed to practice law in Pennsylvania." I said, "Hold on for just 1 second." I said, "Good morning, Mr. Board Chairman and members of the board. My name is David Shestokas, and I'm the personal representative of the President of the United States." I get goosebumps when I say it now. So it was a special moment in time. We did a lot of things. We got provisional ballots. We litigated before that. After that, I wound up in court with Mayor Giuliani. There's a special story there where I was in court with the legal team on a Tuesday. I was scheduled to testify on a Thursday. The judge on Tuesday delayed or put off the evidentiary hearing that I was supposed to testify at on Thursday. And come that Friday, he dismissed the case that involved 600,000 contested votes in Pennsylvania without ever hearing a word of evidence. Oh, wow. So when you hear stories around that says, we lost 50 cases here and there, these judges were not hearing evidence about these cases. I can tell you because I was there. And maybe someday I'll come back because I do a whole hour and a half about Pennsylvania. But that's a several thing. You're going to hear from some of the more brilliant people around about global issues and data and important things and how they prove that things went wrong. I was on the streets. I was on the streets. I was dealing with things. We were following up on matters like buildings that were condemned that had voters registered and were voting. We were doing these things on the streets and then going to courtrooms. So that's that. So I have election matters. One of my other opponents at a different event asked, well, I did this, and this during the pandemic, and I got one of blah, blah, blah. And what did these guys do? Well, for one, of course, I was fighting for election integrity in all around the country. Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona I was involved in. I did some consultation actually in Michigan as well. So I was busy with those matters, but beyond all that, I actually filed suit on behalf of a church in Grundy County and got that church open during the pandemic. So I was doing election matters, religious liberty matters. I was doing all kinds of good things during. I was busy during that time frame. I did a presentation about Pennsylvania in Decatur in April of 21. After at the end of that, there was a guy in the office by the name of Dan Calkins. He's a state representative. Dan came over. He was talking to me and he said, "Dave," and he was explaining how they were trying to make sure that what didn't happen, that it happened last time. 40 Democrats ran for the legislature unopposed in the last election. And Dan and his team were working to not have that happen again. And Dan said to me, he was explaining that to me, and I said, "Dan," I said, "well, if you need a candidate and you need somebody to do this, I will step forward." And Dan said, "Dave, why don't you run for Attorney General?" And that's how this started. It wasn't even my idea. But the more I looked at it, the more I understood that the Attorney General was supposed to be the lawyer for the people, not for the government, not for the governor. And over the last couple of years, all he's been doing is being the lawyer for the governor. One more issue about that, in terms of Bobby saying that this is the most important office on the ballot. In March of 2020, J.B. Pritzker issued his first executive order on the disaster declaration. The understanding always had been, prior to that he had the authority to exercise extraordinary powers for 30 days and no more. And within that 30 days, he had to go to the legislature. He didn't like that too much, so he got on the phone. I'm assuming he got on the phone. This is my best Bob Newhart. Says, Kwame, I want to do more than 30 days. I want to go longer. Can I? Kwame said, let me see, JB. Let's see what we can do about it. Within a couple of weeks, Kwame Raoul issued a 15-page document that he called an Attorney General opinion, which was nothing but a political document that said there could be consecutive orders. So everything that you don't like about J.B. Pritzker, Kwame Raoul made possible. Okay? If Kwame Raoul does not defend the governor in court, all of this is over in April of 2020. It is all over 2 years ago. So this is some additional understanding. So this is the kind of thing. So I've got experience with elections. I've got experience with prosecutions. I've got experience defending religious liberty. And by the way, Bruce, I've written a couple of books. You were talking about constitutional education. Here's a shameless self-aggrandizing plug. My book is called Constitutional Soundbites. It's available on Amazon. You can anybody can get it that they want. I also have one about the Declaration of Independence called Creating the Declaration of Independence. It traces Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and Richard Henry Lee in the month before the Declaration was issued. So as a result of that, we're going to run the office according to this. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that governments are instituted among men to secure these rights, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And we determine consent of the governed through elections. If we don't have elections, we have nothing. If the elections aren't any good, we have nothing. And I've been working on elections for a long time. I will continue to work on elections, and I will not shy away from using the authority of the office of Attorney General to put people behind bars for everything that everybody's doing. And God bless them for everything they're doing. We're working with eyes on every belt. We're doing everything we can. But you know what it'll take to have this work? A couple of people are going to have to do some perp walks, right? A couple of people are going to have to get arrested. They're going to have to be locked up. I will have the authority to do that, and I will not be afraid to use that on behalf of the people of the state of Illinois. I'll take some questions.